Good morning, lovelies. I am Mama Maggie Ward, independent author, stroke survivor, migraine sufferer, and I am going to be hosting Breaking the Block this morning. Sam is taking a little time off for personal reasons, and today we have my middle, the lovely Mara Baker, and she is here with my grandpup Gizmo. He is a good boy, and Rachel D. Adams, who is the one of the pair of writers writing the Dragon Tasker series. And our topic today is going to be having people to help you when you're writing. Rachel, do you want to tell us something about your books?
Well, I probably have brain fried myself when it comes to that. Let me think back on it. We have a dragon shifter who is working for the very organization that is out to get him. That is my elevator pitch, and that is how I get a lot of people to come and be interested in our urban fantasy, paranormal romance with a huge chorus of characters surrounding this jaded dragon shifter who's been alive for so long and his new human counterpart who has decided to take it upon himself to try and get the dragons off the blacklist for the Organization of Crimson, which is the supernatural policing organization.
I love your world building, by the way. I love the world building in the Dragon Tasker series, and Phineas is just that grumpy old get off my lawn kind of a dragon.
He is. He is. We are actually delving into the past again with Moons Over Ordia right now, telling Twilight and Kieran's story from the time that right before they met to going through their mating and all their trials and tribulations. So we're hoping to add that to our side stories. And
Kieran is one of those that you want to hate him. You really, he's such a jerk. But then he's got reasons, and his reasons.
I have to watch my language. Not so jerk.
Yeah, there's usually always a reason behind a villain. So, and he's not exactly a villain per se, but he can be.
He does things that make you yeah. He does things that seem villainous, that seem overbearing and controlling, but yeah, he's got his reasons.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Kappa.
Hi, Kappa. Good morning. Good morning. I'm in the chat. Rachel's in the chat. We've been here for a while. It's been a day. We both had that morning. And honestly, I just put the dogs back outside right before I came live because I was like, I am done with you. I know it's been cold and windy. And last week we were having like super dry, warm weather with horrid like 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds. And the dogs didn't want to go out in the wind. Then it started snowing, and we had like super cold, snowy, miserable kind of weather. And they wanted to be out, they wanted to be in, they wanted to be out, they wanted to be in. Today is a nice day. I mean, we're already at like 45, almost 50 degrees. It feels nice outside now. And they just in and out. And I'm like, you know what? You guys can go out and stay out. Yeah.
It's Easter Sunday. They can stay outside and run amok without bothering everybody else.
Well, they did have their eggs this morning, so they are happy doggos.
Somebody hasn't gotten their CHEESE, but try not to say the trigger words to get somebody excited, and then I end up the bounced on because he is an evil gremlin.
He's not a gremlin. He's good boy.
He's literally named Gizmo after gremlins.
After gremlins? I was wondering about that.
Are you done?
Okay. All right. So, did you want to pull up the questions or
Yeah, I'm just
how do you
adding
wanna
the
do
one
that?
you put in the private chat to question 4.
In case we need it. We may not need it.
Yeah. Okay, so last week we left off with how do you pick your next project? And do you have someone helping you pick? I have the mini me here on the next screen. She often will like pick my next help me pick my next project because I have several worlds that I'm writing in.
Or encourage the project she's been thinking of for the last 7 years.
Oh, Daisy the Werecow, yeah.
Not just Daisy the Werecow. The Gargoyles.
The Gargoyle. I know I need to finish that one. I am busy publishing Pagosa Cliffs and Relic of Time Wars. I have to finish the Shadow Hunt first.
She's over there with the whip.
Yeah.
Come on, do it.
25-hour away whip. Please do it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, what was it? The last Pagosa Cliffs book. The last Relic of Time Wars book. She was going into boot camp, and the last Pagosa Cliffs, she was about to go into boot camp. So it was finishing that last book as fast as we could, and then before her last deployment, it was finishing Relic of Time Wars as fast as we freaking could.
And then luckily I ended up in a spot in deployment where I had a little more free time. Not by choice, but was just ending up with free time. And Mama was actually sending me books for me to edit while I was on deployment. And so, like, luckily, because we have access to Word and all the fun stuff there.
Oh, good.
So it actually doesn't, so we don't mess up the formatting, even though it still did mess up the formatting. I don't know how. But
I know how. It's because they were the documents were going through the Navy security filter.
I think it was your Gmail, honestly, because we have Outlook. There's
Yeah.
no way it should have been messing it up that bad.
But yeah, no, I did. Interestingly enough, when I started sending her copies, I just randomly sold copies of the previous books. And I was like,
that's better.
I was like, okay, so whoever her security person is looking through these, I have a new fan. Yay me.
There you go.
Yeah, and I would send people copies of the books and everything. And like, here, try this book.
That was one thing that we learned this weekend this past week at the event, was that we actually do have some fans out there locally that came specifically like, hey, we're here to pick up everybody's, like, there were 3 authors there that I talked to on the regular, and all of them, this one group of people and also another lady came through, and they were all looking for us in particular. They were like, okay, which are the new books? Because I've got the old books. I want the new books. Hello, Sky.
Hi, Sky. Today we're talking about the benefits of having a co-writer or an alpha reader or like a sounding board to just like to get you going on projects and help you break the block. And I know you've talked about that your husband reads through things with you and harasses you about things. And Damara is back.
Sorry, I dropped my browser by accident. I was trying to turn the brightness up on my computer and dropped it. And I was like, no! I didn't just actually do that.
Tech Gremlins were out yesterday for me, so.
Yeah, I actually had a thing happen where I like lost power for like I was on Shannon's stream. She was doing that 777 minute stream.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing the midday stream with her, and all of a sudden the power went out, and like 3 hours, no power, no internet. It was just blinking on and off, and I was like, what is going on? But I was like, oh, gremlins. Sky says, DeHubs is not as much of a reader anymore as he used to be. He refuses to read until it's done now.
Oh, wow. I tend to be the coach. I'm the one that's, hey, let's do this. We got to do this. For book 4, it was one of those situations where we had to sit down and be like, okay, look, you've got these days that are available to you. Let's just go into it. And then once we get into it, then it's almost like there's this hovering situation over us, like a bunch of clouds and stuff. And we're like, oh no, we don't want to go out there. It's just really, really, that's a lot that we've got to go through. But once we get started on it, we start having fun, and we start realizing, hey, we just need to, update these things. So it helps out, kind of playing off of each other. But yeah, I tend to be the one with the whip in our relationship when it comes to this particular question. I'm the one that decides which project we're going to do next. But I always run it by her, because if she's not in the mood for it, then,
Yeah.
it's no good. I think I was the one that spoke up this last time, because we were planning on doing prequel 3. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like, but it gives away so much information that might be considered spoiler information for the rest of the main series. So I talked to Dawn about it, and sure enough, she was like, yeah, I kept thinking maybe we're doing the wrong order here. At least we need to get book 4 out the door before we think about prequel 3. And so that's why we shifted gears midway.
Yeah, this is something that Mara has to deal with all the time with me. Sky says he got tired of me making changes after I finished a draft, even though it was necessary for plot purposes. How many times have you read something and then I've gone back and rewrote it, especially like Relic of Time War?
Oh, we're not even going to talk about all the new changes to number 12. That's because, yeah, I'm getting ready, and then just like, could you read over this new one? And I'm like, what? And I'm like reading through, like trying to figure out what has changed. And then like I'll get to it, and I'm like, oh, nice, that's really good. And then it'll like it's back to the same, and I'm like, but sometimes it'll throw me off because I'll read something and I have this weird deja vu moment. Like, have I read that before? I think I've read that before. But you also, like, you also get that same sense, like editing the Pagusset Cliffs. You get that deja vu a lot because everything loops back over. Everything's layering quite well. So it's just like, it gets a little confusing. I'm not even going to lie. Because you think you're done, and then you're not done. Come here.
Yes, but I got a tear this time, so woo!
I got a single tear while I was at work. How do you feel?
It makes me sickly happy.
Are you done sniffing?
Yeah, you can't get tears out of her. If I think the only time she really had a breakdown for a book was one character died. There was one character's death that got her, and then when Cajun died in the wildfire.
Oh my God, no, not Cajun's death. That one was bad.
Yes, yeah, I am not above killing the beloved horse or dog in a series because
well, we cannot feed you. You need to stop.
There was a tracks that all of us in the 80s will always remember.
Yeah. Every Gen Xer is like, Artex, no.
Yeah. We all went through that together.
Sky says, in answer to the question, I have met so many ideas. I start brain dumping ideas to see what has my interest more and how close to done it is so I can pick those in the crossover to work on next. Cat Paw, it is a never-ending story reference. Our text was Atreyu's horse, and he gave up in the dismal swamp of despair and sank into the muck and died. And there was this scene that we all saw as children and young teens of this boy pulling on his horse's reins, going, "Don't give up, don't give up." And yeah.
Are you done? Can we be done, please? He's not all dog. I'm convinced he's part cat.
Sky says, "I love the community we've built on YouTube, as well as sometimes I can message someone randomly and be like, 'Hey, can I use you as a rubber duck?' And most of the time the answer is yeah.
That's true. That helps out, because sometimes you go, when it comes to, like, especially co-writers, we're both stumped. We're both like, hey, what should we do next? What order should this be in? And that's where my beta readers and alpha readers and YouTube counterparts come in, because they're really, really sweet about that.
Yeah, it's we have a really good community here, and I just feel like that we always have that even when we're stuck, like when we're stuck, or we don't realize, like it got pointed out to me that there's an arc that happens in the last book with the twins, and one of the twins dies and her soul stays with her sister. That is just it was just like mentioned like twice, and I realized I needed to go ahead and fill that arc out, which ended up adding, like, I think 12,000 words to the total. It took us over 100,000 words for the last
something
book.
like that. We're now at 106,000.
Yeah, it took us over 100,000 words for the last book, but it was an arc that needed to be completed.
Yeah.
And that was the right place for it.
Yeah, and so that was where we wrote it. But it there's whenever, like, I get to a place where I'm like, I need a break from these projects, I started rolling when Mara was always the one to say, I want this one next, I want that one next, and I would write it. Her and Jen would be like, I want this one next, and so I would write it. And then when she went on deployment, I ended up having to, like, roll a dice to pick a story.
I sent you dice, so
yeah, she sent me dice and sent me this giant green, like, apple-sized home defense D20.
The boulder. I love the boulder.
Yeah. Oh, I rolled a nat 20 on that the other day.
Yeah, the boulder does good.
But it's when you and Dawn are trying to break down where to go to next. I know that you've been putting out, like, reader magnets and stuff in your newsletter and stuff, and that some of your reader magnets have become novels. How did you pick those? I know you're struggling with the book 3 prequel because of the spoilers.
Mm-hmm. How did we pick the stories? Well, we were writing. The first reader magnet that we did came from us writing the history, and where Cineas and all of his Lycan friends kind of knew each other, and also establishing their hierarchy and that there is another world, because at that point we hadn't delved into that, and we knew that we were going to delve into it in book 2. So it was kind of perfect timing to work on that and use it as a reader magnet, because that way the readers would be familiar with the other world, and that it was a other world, and that on the other side of that world was our world, specifically historic 1800s France. was where he was about to go. But when we decided to change that was when we had such a outcry for wanting the print book of that instead of having it just as, and also we realized we could continue the story. We had plenty of story to continue. And so we're like, well, if we make this into a series as well, we can't really keep it as the reader magnet. Plus, we wanted the reader magnet to be exclusive. Like, you can only get that if you're subscribed. I swear he's purring. That's definitely part cat.
Yeah, he makes this sound.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, squirrel. We decided to go ahead and we were going through our prequel material, trying to figure out what we could use for a reader magnet. But as we were going through it, we realized that book 2 is going to be twice as big. Either book 2 or book 3 were going to be twice as big if we kept all of the information. So that's why we were like, okay, well then what can we break out? And we can keep it our reader magnet part of the prequel series so that it doesn't stagnate the main series. It can also be completely skipped if you wanted to skip it. It provides amazing information and insight into what's going on and what happened that caused the big rift within the pack. But at the same time, do you need it to read the other books? No, you don't. It can stay exclusive because it is a story that goes through the plotting and it kind of closes at the end. So yeah, we were just trying to decide what we could do that could make it exclusive and also something that didn't necessarily have to be read by the general population that we have. And that's where we came from. This extra story that we picked all the scenes back out of our main story timeline and like, okay, well, it goes here. And it actually fits perfectly between Vampire's Dragon and the Mage's Dragon.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Demon's Dragon.
The Demon's Dragon. Oh, we never came up with that.
I know, but Issa and I know his name isn't Damien. I don't know why I always want to call the twins.
Oh, Dante and Mira.
Dante and yeah. I'm waiting for that one. I know it's a future. I know I'm not allowed to give you shiny projects, but
yeah, we've not gone backwards on them. Like we've gotten a few scenes, but we've not gone backwards enough. And so that's also something that we did talk about. So yeah, it's on the list of things to do, which, that was one thing that we went back and forth on with this book cover for Demons and Disaster. I was like, but we do plan on doing a book from the past showing what the twins went through, because they went through a roller coaster ride from the time they were born till we meet them in Paris. So that would be very interesting. But at the same time, I was like, okay, but I really love the idea of the book having them on the front of it right now.
I see, my brain already has the cover of Dante standing there with her white dragon wrapped around him.
Yeah.
I already have the book cover in my head for that one. So.
With Enya wrapped around. Yeah. And the thing is, like, we've kind of touched on their story, but their story is also involved because she has another kindred. And yeah, he did some naughty things.
Good morning, Dawn. We're
There's
talking
Dawn.
about the benefit of co-writers and alpha readers and like sounding boards, and how it helps break the writing block when there's more than one person working on a book.
Well, what Sky said too, I've done that before too, and I've gotten answers from my newsletter readership. to let me know what they want next, as far as like reveals and stuff like that, at least.
Yeah. Where's that? Sky says, second answer, I pulled newsletter subscribers to see what I should work on sometimes.
Because what we work on and what we share with our newsletter subscribers doesn't always equate to what is going to be published next. But it's something that we're working on, and that way it's there and they know that eventually they're going to get that.
More.
Well, that's the reason we're playing with Moons Over Ordia right now, because she's like, we haven't written their story either.
Yeah, Ordia is going to be amazing. It's a whole world that has a little bit of human spice influence on it, but it's so, you've got the wars, you've got the wolves, you've got the elves, you've got the mages, you've got the dragons. It's the demons are sneaking in and out of portals on this world, and
we're also playing with the vampires from this world, who have a whole different culture than the vampires in Gaia. So that's going to be in the future.
Okay, let's hop on to question 2. Having a second set of eyes can help you break through writer's block. Okay, that should just be adjust your wick. I don't know. I don't know why I'm obsessed with. Hold on a second. I apologize to everyone today.
You're totally
My brain, I'm having one of those green days where everything has a green halo and everything tastes metallic, and I'm like, I don't want to have a migraine later, but I'm going to.
Oof.
Oh no.
Yeah, Gizmo just finally got settled. Has to lay on the desk for some reason. Like, my laptop is sitting up on the printer with a box of those icy hot patches. Like, it's sitting up in a weird assembly just to help Gizmo not lay on my laptop.
Yeah. Having a second set of eyes can help you break the writer's block. Does having a co-writer or alpha reader help you adjust the whip you're working on? For the better, yes. Yeah, it's having someone. I know that with Pagosa Cliffs, having Mara to bounce the books off of, and then Robbie and Glenn, not my husband Glenn, but my friend Glenn Maddock in Australia, to bounce the books off of, to bounce the stories off of, really helped flesh out certain characters and create like a storylines, like what's your hashtag? What's your Deputy McConnell hashtag, Mara?
Let Lloyd live alone, or let Lloyd die alone. Either one of the two. I bounce between both.
Yeah. But I actually ended up writing a happy ending
Lloyd
for him.
To my dismay, he gets a happy ending.
Yes. Are you happy with his happy ending though?
Yeah, because it's a goat lady. That's the only reason why I'm happy. Mommy loves you too. I was glad that Lloyd's got a happy ending. Did you like Lloyd? Did you like it when I read Lloyd's story?
It's like getting like I said a few moments ago, having someone point out a part of the story that needs fleshed out, something that got dropped, or that like not knowing how to handle it.
Yeah, because we rush. We love our dialogue and our drama moments. And sometimes we're like, oh, how did we get to this point? We kind of need to make sure everybody knows how we got to this point. And so we will go back and forth on that role of the person that's like, hey, so we just went right into it and didn't really explain how they got here, where they are, what's going on around them, and we'll redo it. So that helps out. Once we got through the first 2 books, I realized how important you guys are as beta readers, and also how important Dawn and I going back and forth to decide things is important. And I feel like I can explain our role when it comes to co-authors. We're coming up with scenes and we get stuck, for instance. Well, one or the other co-author gets an idea and writes the next scene, okay? Or changes things up. And then that forces the previous author to come in and go, oh, well, I wonder, okay, so if I put this character in here, this would go this way. And so then it kind of challenges our brains to do something different, but still stay within the same umbrella of that book. And that helps out. If I'm not in the mood, but we know we've got to get something done, Dawn is like, okay, well, I will start the scene. I will set the scene. And then you bring your characters in. And vice versa. When it comes to beta readers or alpha readers, both, we have a particular idea of what's going on and what we're doing in a scene or in a book. And the beta readers and the alpha readers come along and they're like, hey, we don't get this. Or, hey, this could be done better. What if this happened? And it's stuff that's outside the box. We've been looking at this for so long that we never saw that. So beta readers help that way.
The tea shop girl, I know that she has the same nickname as Dante's sister. The nicknames were so similar that I was confused for a minute when I first read through it. I remember saying that to you and you were like, I didn't even realize that. and like
they're
Mara,
the opposite.
Yeah.
The vowels are the opposite.
Yeah. But yeah, Brain Damage was saying it was the same name when I first read it because
also was saying the same name. I was like, no, it's definitely not. But it's not.
Yeah. Sky says, I don't have a co-writer or alpha readers, although both would be awesome one day in separate ways. I have different beta readers for different projects and I use them all. Most of the times I've gone straight to developmental editing from drafting and skipped the beta reading track.
And see, I'm the opposite. I would never at this point skip the beta reading track because my beta readers have helped so much with things that we didn't see. And then that way, when it gets to the developmental editing and further editing, then we don't have to worry about that part because we've already changed the things that we need to change.
Dawn had said earlier while you were talking, having a co-writer helps a lot when it's those places we can't get through and areas we are struggling on. We jump into one another all the time and can see what one another meant or highlight and say, what did you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason we love Google, because we do the little comments and stuff back and forth as we're writing, and we can also write back and forth, and it's web-based, so everything gets synced over all of our stuff. And it doesn't cost an arm and a leg like the other program does. But now I use the other program for finishing touches and stuff.
Good morning.
Hello, Esther.
Hi, Esther.
Yeah. Mara and I, during the original draft of the Relic of Time War series, when Darcy Weber was a very minor character with like she had scenes in book 2, book 3, and then nothing until like book 8.
Yeah,
And
Darcy was supposed to be just a low-key character.
And Mara was like, she needs to be more active. She's allegedly Daisy's best friend. She needs to be more active. And it actually, the original plan was to save her so that she could be alive after the war. And Mara pointed out that no, with her personality, if this event happened, Darcy would do this, because every time before, when something
Darcy
like this is happening, Darcy has done this. And so for Darcy to go John Wick was rather became the only outcome for her character, rather than having her be put in a healing sarcophagus so she could wake up after the war and live the rest of her human life with Daisy and her children.
Because then that becomes repetitive, because then the same thing happens to Moira, and it's just like, we can't be doubling up on that. Yes, they've got like 1,000 sarcophagus, however, that just seems repetitive, especially
to be constant.
So I will be the judge.
Because she would be the third human that had been tucked into one of those alien technology healing sarcophagus to save, because that was what saved Cordell Kingsguard.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it like because I have this, my series is huge, it's 1.4 million words, and I find myself, because my brain will get on a circle, and I'll repeat things. So having the second set of eyes on it is like, Mom, you've done this arc, you've done this scene before, you've done this before. Helps keep me from repeating things.
Yeah, that's a big deal too, because a lot of times we forget that we've already explained something, or it's like you want to put stuff in there, but then should you honestly do that? Because your readers aren't dumb. They can pick up on things. Sometimes they pick up on things quicker than we do. Easter egg in the chat being an example.
Yeah, Mira and Mari. Yeah, my brain was reading them as the same word, because dyslexia for the win. No, yeah,
we love it.
Yes, but that's going to become a little more clear as the series goes on.
I am interested to see how Mara and her new shop evolves as and how it works with a Kennedy investor and what kind of attention it draws.
Whoa, it's going to be a nice, interesting attention.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Question number 3. Does the imp keep you from sharing unfinished stories because you feel they aren't good enough? How could having a co-writer or alpha reader help you? I put this in because I have never had an issue not sharing a story. And I know that you and Dawn held on to your stories for 20 years. You've been writing them and they're just there. What was the step that finally made you start to step out to share the Dragon Tasker world?
I mean, we were kicked in the butt by our husbands, was one of the things. We always saw it as a hobby, something that we did to kind of release stress when it comes to our jobs, our day jobs, and so we would just find time. And so my hubby got onto me And that's where that story comes from. Is we're in a bookstore and I'm thinking he's upset with me because here we are. We actually had to, like, he had to drag me out on a date instead of me being in front of the computer writing. And he's like, hey, we need to do this more often. We need to go out more often. We need to talk more often about this kind of stuff. And I'm like, so what do you want me to do? You want me to not write as much, or, am I taking attention away from you? Or, I was wondering where we were on this, and people can say it's strange, but my husband and I are best friends. So we kind of do this talk thing instead of usually an argument or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about it like that. And he said, no, you want to know the one thing that's wrong here? I'm not seeing your books up on the shelves. That's what's wrong. He's like, if you're spending this much time doing it, why not try at least? I know it's been a dream of yours. We've been to conventions. You've been to writer things on conventions. The word has left me right now. But
Panels?
Panels, yes. So I've been to so many writers' panels. It's pathetic. But not ever thought, okay, well, this is the year I'm going to actually publish something. He sent me links to Sarah Cannon's stuff. He sent me a couple of other links to other writers, and I felt like Sarah's was more of a thing that I could do. So I went ahead and made the plunge and spent my money to go through her courses, and it really helped me out. And part of my problem was ADHD. Part of it was the imp. Part of it was just, hey, we both had that way of looking at it is this is just a hobby. This is not, we're not professionals at this. This is not. Plus I came up during the time frame where it was traditional or nothing. If you weren't traditional, you weren't real. And that
if you
also
don't have
imp on my other shoulder saying, well, nobody's going to want this.
If you don't have that college education literature degree, no one's going to want you. Yeah, see, you and I have the same thing. And, and coming out of that era, especially you and I, teenager college students in the 90s when, oh, you're with the Vanity Press.
Right, that too. It's like, but yeah, it really, for that kick in the ass, it was an author at one of those panels that came out and said, this is what I did. He and his partners were already authors in fantasy and had publishing contracts and everything. But it came up to he and his wife partnered on something, and they really loved this story. It could have become a series, and nobody wanted it. They only wanted him and his partner author to do stuff more. And is Tracy Hickman, and he was famous for partnering with Margaret Weiss, and they came up with Dragonlance. And he wanted to do this with his wife, which was a totally different world, totally different idea. So they did it the self-publishing route. And then the publishing companies that had said, no, we don't want that, came back and wanted it after that, after they showed, hey, people want this. So that also had a lot to do with us moving on and trying it out. But the imp has many faces and it is very strong. So it really helps to have partners, whether they be your alpha readers or people. Well, in that case, it would have been people that we trusted enough to let read our stuff because we were like, I don't know if they'll like that. Your husband, your partner, and also your co-writer. Because then once I felt confident enough, I dragged her ass out. It was like, come on, we're going to try this. Let's try this.
Get in here.
Well, she made me get on. I was perfectly fine being on Wattpad and Inkit. And then she was like, Mom, I need physical copies of your books to take with me.
He's like, I need physical copies so that they can.
And
Isn't it-
Glenn was big on that because he's suffering from a disease that's affecting his eyesight, and he has difficulty reading digital media. So publishing became for friends and family. But yeah, no.
Can y'all hear him?
It's
Yeah, a little bit. I'm so used to mine and
Okay.
everybody else though that it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's the Frenchie having to snork at everything, and I'm like, enough.
yeah.
Yeah, but like having the physical copies of like Mama's books has been like, it's been rewarding because like I can say I have an entire shelf in my apartment that's literally only her books. Like
Nice.
on the boat of all the copies of stuff I had like half a shelf, which is a shelf about that big. That was just her books that I had copies of. I have copies that are still loaned out to friends. Which way do I need to go? There we go. I have copies that are loaned out to friends that I honestly just forgot to pick back up. But I have so many books that I've basically donated to the boat just because I know like they're about to be on their second deployment. They're about to be going into the Red Sea. Like, it's going to be rough. Like, we all know it's going to be rough. And so, like, just having that little ounce, because Mama's books are so enticing and they're so emotional, and that's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Just outside of the world that you're in.
Yeah.
That's what I love about fantasy of any kind is just kind of, it helps you go beyond
It's
your own
the
world.
escape. It's the escape. And that's what I write it for. I write it for like, well, you've read my books. You know that I've got that overcomer theme in all of them so that it's no matter what you go through, you can survive. It just takes time and usually therapy. You can make it through things.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's that which doesn't kill you makes you tired.
Oh,
it doesn't kill you. It makes you. It doesn't make you stronger. It makes you tired. Stronger is what comes after tired.
Yeah. That is true. And sometimes you learn lessons. Sometimes you don't. Yeah, ours definitely needs therapy.
Cindy is so much therapy.
Are you done?
I can imagine him sitting in Sunshine's office going with Sebastian on the other side making the same face. We need to talk.
It's that scene from Winter Soldier.
Yeah, pretty much. They're just staring at each other. Neither is speaking. Yeah, pretty much.
What can you say about him that is a good thing, a positive thing?
Yeah.
Mm.
Not a single word.
She's like laughing. She's like, "Oh God."
Yeah, we were warlords. We don't have to say nice things to each other.
No nice things.
I'm trying to think of the ones.
I'm trying. You can't.
Like even Devin needs therapy, and he's like the most well-adjusted. Eva too.
Therapy is so important, though. Therapy is so important, though.
Yeah, and I honestly.
But it's almost a reflection.
Okay, who
of our
doesn't need
world.
therapy in Relic of Time War? Lessa and Colby. Well, Lessa and Colby
So that's
Karanor, Don, doesn't need, I don't think he needs therapy. He's a side character, but it's a side character, but
Yeah, Les and Colby are side characters. They had
there is no main characters that don't need therapy. All of the main characters need therapy. Daisy needs therapy. Kayla should have had some therapy.
What's funny is later on we actually introduce a therapist to the mix, and it is funny. He's human, and he's just like, okay, so then he has to wrap his mind around what somebody is telling him first. Then he can be like, okay, so now I can tell you this is what I see. Let's work this out. and he has become one of my favorite characters to write up against. She writes him, and I write the damaged person coming to see him. And who was the first one? Was it Arkin? I think it was Arkin.
Riker and Bree. She says Riker and Bree don't need therapy.
No, they don't. They're other people on the outside of them probably would say they do, but they're perfect together. They really are. Arkin definitely needed therapy. Dear God, that poor dragon.
Oh goodness, yeah.
At least he's got family finally, but yeah.
Hi, Jody.
Hello.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, like, well, I've told the story several times that one of my editors, when I first started publishing the Pagosa Cliffs and Enemies, did not want Millie in therapy because she didn't believe in therapy.
Yeah.
And so I tried to write a version where Millie wasn't in therapy, and Millie's arc as her personality arc changed so much that I was like, no. And I gave it to her to look at. And
Millie needed to be in therapy.
She like noped out of it too. She was like, no, Millie is this inherent. She's almost a Mary Jane, but she's not. She's she chooses positive mental attitude. That's her thing. And it becomes very clear because Millie can be mean.
Millie can be mean.
Millie can, and she's mean because you need her to be mean to you. And she does this to Lloyd a couple times. She does it to Mitch and Jackson. She also will do tough love. She like what she did with Hythe Rowling. She gives him the tough love. I'm not, this is what happened. We're never going to be able to go back to whatever you're hoping is never going to happen. And here is why. And here's the things you need to know so you can start healing. Now anyone dealing with them.
They're like, we're trying to understand. That you will never understand.
You will never understand. Okay, we are 5 minutes to the hour. Do you want to go on to question 4? How do you keep the stories from spinning its wheels while you are trying to figure out where it's headed? Panzer Plancer Discovery Writer. How does having a co-writer help this?
I tell you to work on something else. If you're really at that bad of a stall, chances are working on something else will help kick your brain into drive. And then you'll go through and you'll be like, oh, I know what I need to add, or I know where I can fill this plot hole. And that's usually how I get you to start picking up on things again.
I know that I will write 4 or 5 versions of a scene or of a character or something, and I will go to her and I will say, okay, pick one.
Pick one version. Pick
the one that you think is best for the arc of the story.
That
and
is
I will
not an easy decision.
write out that arc because Spartan Chimera had 4 different endings.
Yeah. 4 different endings. You're so loud.
I do like
Is
the.
that Frankie?
No, that's Gizmo.
Gizmo is now snoring as loud as Frankie.
No, he's not snoring. I'm trying to keep him off the desk because he, for some reason, is like, oh, Miss Rachel and Omi, let me lay on the laptop. He's like, Rachel, whenever you're talking, he's like all over my laptop. And I'm like,
He's like, oh, that one loves doggies. That one loves doggies.
oh, I like her. I like the way she sounds.
I
want a new person. You're disturbing my peace while I'm trying to live stream. The therapist is so far seen.
Dawn says the therapist has so far seen Arkin, Gabe, Zoe, Legal, Terry, Mason, and Twee.
And Samantha.
And Samantha.
That's 9. That's 9 people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Presbyts are technically the therapist in this, and Asha, who is the master healer. So I have 4, basically 4 healers, therapist, and the entire royal family except Allura needs therapy.
Yeah.
And all of the surviving warrior corps pretty much needs therapy. The majority of the surviving humans need therapy.
All of the Mazonis need therapy. Most of the side characters need therapy.
Oh no, we lost Rachel.
She blinked. No.
Come back. Says device not connected.
That's awful. Yeah. Usually it's like if you're at your stall, I will tell you to go work on like the series you keep saying, yeah, I'm going to write it and I'm going to get through it. And then you don't write gargoyles. And then I'm upset you haven't written gargoyles. Because I've been waiting on gargoyles for several years.
I have the first one written. I'm only 11 chapters into the second one. I promise I will write gargoyles next year while we are publishing Servants of the Moon.
True.
So.
Come on, Giz. Do you want up? This has been my fight all stream. Is Gizmo either is on the floor and wants up, or is on the desk and wants to be in camera?
There we go. I can talk.
We can hear you.
We just hear you.
Just can't see me.
Yeah.
Ever since I changed out cameras, actually it started before I changed out cameras. For some reason this camera just everything gets reset to default. It's happening on Discord too.
Oh no.
So I may not be able to get the camera back, but I can at least talk.
Yeah. No, so here's a question for you and Dawn. Have you ever had a scene and you guys have been writing together for 20 years. So had a scene and been like, this is just meh, and then you one of you came up with a completely new, totally different scene that replaced a scene that you were meh about?
Yes. I know that we have several of them actually. So it's kind of like I'm trying to pick out the best example. If she comes up with an example, toss it up there. To answer the question first, before I forget this, I'm sorry, I'm going to come back to that question. But the main thing that I do in that situation is I write up goalposts of where I want my characters to be or what I want to happen. And that way I always have a direction to go in, even if I do have to skip scenes, because we had recently a scene where there was Skinner was hunting his next situation, and he
And I couldn't write that scene for some reason. I had to go do research on it. I had to make sure that I was getting stuff right, and I really had it in mind what I wanted it to be. So I wound up having to skip that scene and go to like 2 or 3 more scenes before I could come back to it. And it really helped that I had goalposts of, hey, this is where I want to be by the time I go back to that scene. So that's an answer to question number 4. And how does the co-writer help with that? Because of what you're just saying right now. Because sometimes we will get inspiration from a song or a trip or something, and then we'll come back to that scene and make it even a much better scene. Cody and Becca meeting. Oh my gosh, we've done that 4 different ways. We have. Oh my gosh. That is... So Cody and Becca are a side story that is happening parallel to... Hey, I get it. I sneezed like 10 times in a row. So it's happening parallel to the main series. And you see just a glimpse of what's happening when Sebastian goes with Samantha to meet Jane Doe in the clinic, to be like, okay, well, that then it kind of goes away from that because we don't want to really give away a lot. But that's Becca, and Becca has a connection to the rest of the Lycan family that nobody realizes. And so we were trying to figure out how they met, also how they integrate into the Wayland Pack, with him being what he is, which is a bear shifter, and what kind of insanity ensues after that. So yeah, we've written it 4 different ways, and we're actually about to write it again.
Hello, Jenna. Welcome. Yeah, it's okay. So, spoiler on the Huntsman prequel quartet. There's 2 entire books where Yuri is a complete and utter jerk to Fleur. He's just rude. And so when his character gets pulled out of the dust and revived in the future, I had originally wrote Yuri and Darcy as constant enemies. That they were just at each other constantly. And Mara was like, "This is their relationship is exactly Fleur and Yuri's relationship in the Huntsman's hatred."
Yeah, it was like it was doubling up on itself.
And so she had the idea of it being like enemies to lovers.
Everybody
Not
loves that trope.
Of like, because there is a point where Daisy / Fleur in the past says that she knew two spies on either side of the war that had a romance, but one killed the other. And so we were trying to go for that like thing, and then she says no. Yuri has suffered enough. He needs someone to love, and Darcy has never had anyone who cared about her besides Daisy.
Yeah, Darcy needed love. Like
Darcy needed love, or she wasn't going to be able to make that jump into the light.
And then you still, I know what you've done. I know what you've done with Darcy.
It was your idea for her to go John Wick.
Yeah, it was your idea to include Yuri in that plan.
But then
it was not my idea. It was not my idea. And then you made it the idea. You wrote it well. That's why it stayed.
Yeah, I know, but she was going to need help in that last one, and
yeah,
and I wanted Daisy to have that closure of her for her best friend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no, it's sounding different versions of different scenes off each other, and throwing scenes out completely. There's a couple of scenes, and there's one entire character arc that there's one entire character that I just tossed from the entire series. Like he's still in there as a fleet commander. But it's Lars's brother Lance.
Yeah.
But there was probably 20 or 30,000 words through the entire arc after
We
A
just,
Theory
like-
Arises
We just cut.
that we just cut because it was just one more character that
We kind of replaced some characters with other characters because we realized that those B characters really weren't necessary.
yeah,
And that was just an extra name that people had to remember and probably wonder about by the end of the book or end of the series. So
yeah, and we cut a bunch Abrieth, we cut a bunch of his story out because
Debrief?
he really wasn't, other than being Yuri and Kayla's middle brother and being a warrior, he really doesn't contribute to the overall story of the series.
Yeah.
And
He's just kind of there.
yeah, he's just kind of there to be a sounding board for Yuri and Kayla,
Yeah.
and married to Irini, and running the Guardsman Corps Center after Shads and Lars stepped down.
Lay down. Yeah. Good boy.
But that's something that like having a co-writer, co-reader does help, is they can read through a character and go, do you really need this one?
yeah, we just had scenes that were like that in Vampires and Vendetta. We looked at it and I'm going to publish it. Don't you worry about that, because it's such a wicked scene between the two main couples. And it would have fit perfectly where we had it. It's not that it wouldn't fit, but it didn't really help the plot. It was more fan service that it was helping the plot for the book. And I was like, do we really need this? Should we keep it? We're already over like 80,000 words.
Oh, wow.
And we kind of need to take what doesn't need to be here, because we do have a couple of chapters that we've got to write still. So yeah, it was difficult because I love the scene. I think it's a hilarious scene. Secrets get told, and for once, Mr. Perfect comes out not looking so Mr. Perfect in this scene. So I think I'm going to have to put it in our extra content folder and toss it out to either the newsletter folks, or maybe do that and then also publish it in Cutting Room Floor as part of that, and let people read it when they're ready to read it. But yeah, it was a matter of both of us looking at it and going, oh, but we love this scene. Both of us love the scene. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I was like, do we need this scene? And Dawn is like, not really, honestly. So we were helping each other with it.
Yeah.
Letting it go.
Yeah, I think Sarah was the one that said we needed to pull Asha and Shad's wedding, because we'd already had Daisy and Kayla's wedding,
and then we had
Cars and Allura's,
like
and these
Giant
we
royal weddings.
yeah, these giant royal weddings, and Shad's and Asha's wedding was another one of these giant royal weddings. And there was a scene in it. There's the scene in it where they're dancing after the wedding, and Shad's and Daisy are using their magic so that the dancers on the dance floor are like floating up. They're like stepping on like magic stepping glyphs. So the dancers are actually floating up as they're dancing.
But like,
And it was such a
that,
cool scene.
It was such a cool scene, but thinking about that concept requires both of them to having to calculate everyone's movements around them.
Which is something they could both easily
do. Which is something they could both do. Are you serious right now? But
we don't want to see your butt, Gizmo.
Gizmo, get your butt. Come on, lay down. Quit being a boy. Lay down.
Okay.
Lay down.
But the thing is we had already had 2 giant royal weddings that the basic thing was almost identical.
Yeah, literally.
During the, and it was just like, okay, we don't need a third royal wedding in the series.
Because Daisy and Caleb's
wedding was perfect.
Yeah, their wedding went off perfectly, and then Kars and Allura, they had the
one of the shadows attacked them.
The rehearsal mishap.
And then one of the shadows attacked them right after the ceremony.
Literally right after. And so it was kind of like, do we need to do this again? Like,
yeah.
We don't necessarily need to do this again.
Yeah. But that was that chapter was an 8. It ended up, I was going to split it into 2 chapters, and it was about 6,000 words that just got completely pulled because it was a repeated event.
It's like the same thing with Darcy. Again, put her into a sarcophagus, it's another repeated event.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Do you have any more any more questions or anything to talk about the benefits of having a co-writer alpha reader during the initial drafting process?
Just that I wouldn't skip having alpha readers, and if you even if you're not collaborating with another author to write your book, having other authors who have gone through the process and have that experience, it is so helpful to be able to let them look over your story and give you feedback, because they've been in the trenches too and they know what to look for, whereas you may be blind to it because it's not just because you love your story and you don't want to see that there's anything that's wrong with it, but the fact that you've read that story over and over again, that you're literally blind to things. The submission that I did for Beltane, for instance, like I've caught 2 other things in it since submitting it, and I'm like, and it may not be anything that anybody else even notices, but I notice, and I'm just like, but I had already read it so many times and gone over it so many times that before the submission, I didn't see it. And I really wish I had taken it by somebody else at the very end, because it is something that I added after our critique group went over it. And now I'm like, oh man, I should have really took this by one of the beta readers, let them read it. They probably would have caught that.
Yeah, I had TDM read it. I think you read it, and I think Jenna read it.
Mm-hmm.
About the battle.
I loved that. I loved it.
I still think my favorite. I still think my favorite part was that they fed fed them to the council in the forms of. Pierogies.
That was so Fanny Flag, man. That was
It's,
beautiful.
but pierogies are so good. So like, I love pierogies.
So this barbecue is so good. What's
It's like,
special
oh, yeah.
about Wes?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's pork. Wait a minute.
It's ogre pierogies.
On this I don't have any pork in this area. What do you mean? No, it's pork. Just sit and smile. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal.
I don't have any more questions, and I think we've covered all of it that we can right now. So
Yeah, and I think it was a good discussion because a lot of writers, they feel isolated, they feel trapped. We are fortunate enough that we are getting, we are starting to be able to get some of the writers that visit all of the different writing streams that our corner of AuthorTube does, that ask us about your issues, talk about your issues. Don't be afraid to like bounce things
in
off of your
sprints.
fellow writers.
Yeah, feel
In
free to
sprints,
reach
you'll
out.
be amazed.
Yeah. And it's like, they're all like, oh, you should, and there's this whole, I don't know. And this mentality has been around in AuthorTube since I started visiting AuthorTube in like 2017, 2018, about don't tell anyone what you're writing. They'll steal what you're writing and write it for themselves.
No.
Nobody's going to, they might write something similar to what you're writing.
But they're not going to write your exact plot.
But they don't have your voice. They don't have your thoughts for the things. Kappa says, I've never co-written with anyone and don't really feel like I have anything to add to the conversation. Yeah, but you can always get readers and stuff that can, people, there are those of us that are really.
Yeah, this is about beta readers too. So
and beta readers and stuff like that. Yeah. They might steal the idea, but they can't write it like I write it.
Facts.
Exactly.
Facts.
So true. So true. All right. We have been going for an hour and 18 minutes. I am Mama Maggie Ward, independent author, stroke survivor, migraine overcomer. This is my editor and middle child, the dramatic Mara, coming to you from the U.S. Navy.
This is any of my views do not reflect those of the U.S. Navy. I have to say that for legal reasons. This is Gizmo.
That's my grandpa.
Heathen at large, sweetheart in little, stealer of coffee. Really? Again? On the desk?
Yes. Yes, must be on the desk.
Oh,
I am Rachel D. Adams. I am co-author to John McClellan. We write urban fantasy and paranormal romance, and we are always writing daily. So we will have plenty to show you in the future.
Yay!
So excited.
Thank you for joining us. If you are celebrating the end of Passover, be blessed. If you are celebrating Easter today, be blessed. There are some amazing celestial events coming up. Lyrid Meteor Shower starts in actually tonight, and its beginning will last for 4 days. During the crescent moon, we will have the smiley face moon with a bright star and the planet over the crescent of the moon, so you can see the smiley face crescent. And for the new moon at the end of this month, the moon will actually be the closest to Earth it will be this year. So enjoy everything and have a lovely day. Bye.